So since the last video, Bitcoin broke below significant support. And this is something that Bitcoin, for the most part, over the past few years has not really done. Usually once when it found support levels, it has held it. But on this structure, it ended up breaking down below, and this ended up playing out as a double top. This was the first top. This was the second top. If you measure this from the high to the low, the breakdown target was approximately around 77K. It came down to approximately 78.3K approximately. So Bitcoin broke down. But as we head into the weekly close, Bitcoin does have an opportunity to just turn this into some sort of deviation if it can close back above this resistance area, approximately above 89.4K. If it can't, then it has since closed below this major support, and it's now in this range essentially between 89.4K and approximately as low as 75K down here. This would be the range that Bitcoin would essentially be in until it decides one way or the other, whether it breaks back above this or actually even breaks down further. So Bitcoin going into this weekly close has a lot of stuff riding on it. This will really kind of determine how probably this next few weeks or even month plays out. If Bitcoin can reclaim this, this would look very similar to the springs that we saw back in 2023 back here when we broke below this support, but then end up reclaiming it on the weekly close. And then we also saw this last year in 2024. We broke below this support right here, but closed back above it. And both of these were both in quarter one. If we zoom in on both of these examples from 2023 and 2024, you will see that once when the low was made, it broke back above it within 2 daily candles after. So you see this first one, this was the breakdown bottom right here. And then we had 2 green candles and it was able to reclaim it right here. If we go to 2024, this was last year. This was after the ETF launch. We had the ETF launch here. We had this huge move up and then we end up crashing. If you look here, this was 3 days after we had this green candle and we broke back above it. So it was on the 3rd day after the low was made that Bitcoin was able to reclaim this area and force this type of spring structure. And once when it created the spring, it ran to the highs. And in both examples, it ran to the highs shortly after. So a lot is now riding on this daily candle and weekly candle as we head into Sunday. This would be the second candle after the low. We had the low right here, and this was the first one. This would be the second one. So it's in that range, right, that we saw in both 2023 and 2024. And now with this monthly close came in the red. This was a bearish engulfing candle. However, in the past, over the past 2 years or so, we've had a few bearish engulfing candles. We had one last year. This was April of last year. And the following month was actually green. And then we had one right here. This was August of 2024. And then the following month was green. And this actually marked the bottom. So while we did have this huge bearish engulfing candle on the monthly time frame, the last 2 times that we've had bearish engulfing candles has resulted in a green month the following month. So that is something to watch here. So in my opinion, the temporary low for Bitcoin is probably in for now. And one of the biggest signs, really, the night of the capitulation, this was really pretty much at the bottom. I posted this when Bitcoin was around 79.6K. It got as low as 78.4K, I believe. The RSI in the monthly time frame, the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, and the 12-hour time frame were all at their lows from 2023. The monthly RSI was at the November 2023 low. The weekly RSI was at the January 2023 low. The daily RSI was at the August 2023 low, and the 12-hour RSI was at the August 2023 low. And currently, a lot of this RSI has moved back up because the RSI is price-based and it's based on the actual close. So until the close actually happens, this RSI can fluctuate, it can move up and down. But during that time, all of those RSIs on all of those time frames were at their lowest level since 2023. So that was a huge sign that Bitcoin was essentially very much in extreme levels, right? When the RSI is that low on all those time frames, that was an extreme sell-off for Bitcoin. So now we're seeing a bounce, and now we'll watch to see how it goes and closes into the weekly close tomorrow on Sunday. So if you enjoy my content on YouTube and Twitter, I do have a Patreon. The Patreon gives you access to the Patreon chat where you can ask me any types of questions. I also make frequent videos multiple times a week on there. If you're new to crypto, I highly suggest using Coinbase. I do have a Coinbase referral link here. as well as Gemini, which is a US-based exchange. If you trade at least $100 on Gemini, you will earn $75 of a crypto of your choice. So now if we go back to the charts, I wanted to take a look at Bitcoin dominance. So if we look at Bitcoin dominance, the first thing that you notice is that it's just been in a huge uptrend since August of 2022. This was the bottom around this time. It's been in a multi-year uptrend. So objectively speaking, whenever something is in a strong uptrend, whether it be an uptrend or a downtrend, the trend is your friend to the end, right? It favors a continuation despite indicators, despite everything else. But if we zoom in, over the past month, we've been looking at a few things on the Bitcoin dominance chart that does suggest that there is a chance here that this could end up changing direction here perhaps. But this is probably, I would say, the best opportunity that this has had over the past 2 years or so to actually do this. So to start, we look, this was the largest wick that Bitcoin dominance had. This was at the start of February. This was the largest wick since the 2020 top back here. So this was the largest wick in over 5 years on a weekly candle for Bitcoin dominance. And now if I load up the RSI, if you look at this, we did have bearish divergence confirmed, but we're not seeing follow through over the past 2 weeks. So this was a lower high on the RSI with a higher high on the Bitcoin dominance price. So this essentially is still in play, but if this RSI gets above this high from back in early February, it would negate the bearish divergence temporarily. We would need to see the RSI continue to roll over to reaffirm any sort of bearish divergence. So this does have an opportunity to do this. If you zoom in, we've been seeing Bitcoin dominance sell off. Whenever it pushes up, it has sold off. A lot of the alts didn't even make lower lows. Some of them tested right below the February low. A lot of them are still above. So a lot of the alts have been kind of holding up here better, right, than we saw earlier in the month. So we'll watch to see if Bitcoin dominance over the coming weeks starts to break down or not. If this ends up coming above this area, this is around 62.25%, this would kind of negate this type of structure. So it's kind of in a range between 62.25% and then as down as low as approximately 60%. So when it makes its choice, whether it breaks up or breaks down, we will know the direction. And ultimately, until Bitcoin dominance breaks below this area, this is around approximately 54.6% down here, this would actually be the first confirmation of a trend change. This would be a lower low. So until then, it's still in this uptrend, right? It has a lot of work to do and a lot of stuff has to happen in order for it to get back down to this low that we saw in November. So a lot of this really depends also on Ethereum. So Ethereum is the largest weighted coin against Bitcoin dominance, right? Ethereum is the second largest crypto coin, but Ethereum essentially now has confirmed that it has been in a year-long bear market, right? So back in March of last year, it got up to above $4,000 and then trended downward before kind of coming back up over the past few months, but it never really made an actual higher high. It kind of retested the high back here before rolling over and making new lows below this August low. So this high from back in March of 2024 was the start of a downtrend for almost a year now. This is March of 2025 now. So Ethereum has essentially gone through an entire bear market. This was down almost 50% approximately, or over 50% down for a year straight. So this is a significant amount of time, a significant amount of downside as well. This was a bear market for Ethereum, and it's not confirmed that it is over by any means. It's really important at this point for Ethereum to hold above this level. This is around 2,135 on the weekly time frame. It's currently trading above it. If it were to lose it, downside targets such as 1,500 or even the breakdown target out of this potential double top pattern would come into play. So Ethereum needs to hold this, but regardless, we now know that Ethereum has been in a bear market for the past year. So we will continue to watch Ethereum. We'll see if this ends up holding on the weekly time frame, but a downtrend for a year is the typical length of a crypto bear market, right? Usually a bear market lasts for a year. This has gone on now for a year. So it's probably from a time perspective close, but from a price perspective, we don't know that yet. Maybe it breaks lower, or maybe this was the low, but Ethereum would have to start to get through this range up here just to start. This would be around $3,000. And then the 0.618 and 0.786 retrace levels sit around $3,300 and $3,600. So if you enjoyed this video and you're watching on YouTube, make sure to give it a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching on X, make sure to follow me on YouTube. I post all the videos there first. So I will see you guys in the next video.